Okay, everyone, this is my spoiler review of X-Men the Animated Series, Season 4, Episode 4, Sanctuary, Part 2. This originally came out October 28th, 1995. Before I jump into this review, hit that sub button. I can use all the help I can get in starting this brand new X-Men channel that covers all things X-Men, so you're not going to want to miss anything. This is a great episode for Gambit, and he starts with having this great heroic moment, staying back and fending off everybody who is believing Cortez on Asteroid M, letting the X-Men go, and he has a great line where he says, "Now we're playing a new game, and it's Gambit Steel." Now, what I do think is very strange about this episode is when the rest of the X-Men escape, Charles senses Magnus is alive, but still has Magneto's funeral service right after. So there wasn't really any clear explanation of what his thinking was there. I wish they had kind of explained that more because it really did not make sense. Now, I love that Rogue is freaking out that Gambit isn't with them, and the strength of this episode is Rogue getting Gambit back and showing how much she loves him. Now, the scene with Magneto's funeral, I love Rogue's hair here. We never see it like this where it's up. And I love Wolverine's bolo tie. He just looks great here in animation. And for the first time, we hear Magneto's full name, Eric Magnus Lenscher. And we get this little flashback of his parents being killed. And there's a great line where Xavier says, in the end, he wanted to spare future generations the pain he was forced to endure. Though I abhor his methods, I cannot fault the strength of his character. It shows this mutual respect that Xavier has for Magneto, but as an audience member, it shows a moment for you to feel more sympathy for him and what happened to him and what his motivations are and what he does and why he does it. Now, Cortez, who is absolutely insane, and the voice actor playing him, I really actually enjoy his performance. It's very intense, so I like that he's going all out with it. It works for a character like Cortez, or it wouldn't work with a lot of characters, and I love that he's trying to get Gambit just to take the fall and confess to killing Magneto here. But this is going to actually screw himself doing this because Amelia sees Cortez is basically torturing him and starts questioning Cortez himself. And what really sets her off is when Cortez threatens the world and wants all mutants freed no matter what their situation and wants restitution paid or he will attack. I love, though, he gives specifically 4 hours for them to do this. Not 5, not 6, 4 hours. And because of this, Amelia goes to Gambit. And I love Amelia has this cool Nightcrawler-esque power where she's able to just poof into thin air and transport somewhere else. And I love when she asks Gambit if he's okay. And he's like, Gambit have no complaints. Just like chilling in this jail cell. Just moments like that make you love a character like Gambit. But what drove me nuts about this scene with Gambit and Amelia, we've had this issue before in the show. Whenever I have the collars that are stopping the mutants from using their powers, they really should have just left it where it's blinking. That gives the point that it's working and doing its job. They always leave the sound on, so it's messing with when you're trying to hear the dialogue, this just distracting noise of beeping going on throughout this scene. Now what's really cool is when the X-Men are on their way back to Asteroid M, we see they're using all the Shi'ar tech to conceal the Blackbird, and I love they always go back to the Shi'ar tech, but it's really cool to see these space tech outfits that they're in. Professor X looks crazy here. Did not expect that, and I love the color change on Wolverine. I thought that was a nice surprise. Now, what was also wild was Cortez is chilling by himself using his projector, looking at these different versions of himself, and the last one is him with these two women who are basically naked. I cannot believe this was originally in a Fox Kids show, and I'm actually surprised it's still up on Disney Plus, that part of the episode. I just think it's pretty graphic for a kids show. I think it just passes that line, so I was actually shocked it was still there. I'm like, how is this in this episode right now? Now, Rogue and Wolverine get into a really cool fight with Cortez and the Acolytes. I thought that was actually a really fun fight. It was quick, but it was really, really intense. And at the same time, Magneto lands somewhere in the desert and he's still alive. And everything starts really moving at the end here where Amelia plays the tape. She found the tape that Cortez happened to just leave on his desk, not really guarding it, of what really happened, and turns everyone against him. Now, Wolverine is one of the best lines of the episode is when Carmella uses her extended hand power to stop Cortez's grenade, and he goes, she'd be a handful on a date. And Cortez is just like, you know what? He shoots all the warheads that are left that Beast didn't get to. And this is where Magneto makes a grand entrance and stops the missiles. I love this, and it's really cool to see Magneto working with the X-Men here, and you're rooting for him, and it gets you excited more and more for X-Men 97, where Magneto is going to be running the X-Men, but Magneto gets to put Cortez in a bind. His plan was originally just to shoot him away in the failing Asteroid M that fell into the ocean, but we'll see at the end of the episode the cliffhanger is Apocalypse saved Cortez to use him for himself, which is a good cliffhanger in its own right. And I love when Rogue shows up to Gambit and Amelia and says, just like you to be running around with another woman, that was great. And you'll see, though, Charles offers Magneto to come with them. And he's like, thank you, Charles, but if my dream must die, I must see it through to the end alone, talking about Asteroid M. In time, the world might have learned to trust us now that hope has been lost. So it's also kind of sad in a way that he sees the failing in his vision and it's not working, and he throws it into the ocean. And Amelia gets a great line here when Charles offers her to stay. And she's like, I just tried following another man's dream. It is time I discovered my own. So Professor X get rejected left and right here. Oh well. And like I said, we get that great cliffhanger with Apocalypse coming back and having Cortez. So it's a solid conclusion to this 2-part episode. I'm going to give this one an 8.7. I do think part 1 was stronger, but this was still satisfactory and an end for the story that was set up in part 1. I really enjoyed it, and honestly, I think it's one of the best 2-part episodes in the show overall. I really liked how this all went with Magneto, how much we learned about Magneto, how much we learned about Gambit, and got to see cool outfits like the space outfits. And I think Cortez was a really good villain, an interesting villain, and a clever villain as well. So he was a worthy foe to someone like a Magneto and the X-Men. Let me know what you thought of this episode down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment. I try to respond to as many as I can, and I'll see you next time.